up, Internet? Welcome to episode 5 of Super TurboCast. I'm your host, Virgil Davis. Joining me tonight, as always, my two good friends, Kyle Eastman. No, Kyle Eastman.
It's Turbo. I needed him to go first. So I was like, I can't do it. Because I know you normally introduce me first. So I was like, please.
This is going to be trash.
Kyle Eastman, how are you?
Cut it.
No, I'm not cutting it. This isn't coming. No, I'm not cutting it. Okay, Kyle's here, I guess.
Yep, hi.
And the new metal messiah himself, Justin Carter.
what's up, Internet?
It's Turbo time.
It sure is, Kyle. So, how are you guys doing?
Great.
As always,
now, now we've got our composure.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess Kyle's just dying there a little
I'm
bit.
sorry.
I'm so happy to be here.
Are you happy,
Yeah,
JC?
I've been sick for like,
He has been. He's been down with the sickness.
and it was
As the poets of the 90s Disturbed once said.
no, mommy.
If you didn't know, Super TurboCast is a weekly show wherein we discuss the latest news in gaming as well as just some general topics about gaming. You can catch us every week on YouTube, SoundCloud, and starting now, we're on iTunes. Woohoo! That's kind of a thing now.
Yep.
Booyakasha.
Booyakasha, indeed, sir. Go subscribe and rate us and all that cool stuff if you're into that. Like if you have iTunes on your phone or your tablet or your crappy iMac or whatever it'd be, do that kind of stuff. Or if for whatever reason you have iTunes on Windows computer, do that too. But we're going to go right into the news, which that is not. Starting off, guys, it's actually been kind of a slow news week.
It's been pretty dead.
Yeah.
It happens.
Not a lot really happened. Yeah, I don't know.
So that's it. Good night.
Yeah, good night.
Still a bye-bye.
I'm just fucking kidding. There was a fucking Dissidia announced. Final Fantasy Dissidia, next gen looking. Oh
Next gen.
my god. Okay. If you're not in on the Dissidias, it's a game. It's a fighting game. It's a Final Fantasy fighting game where Final Fantasy characters fight. That's it. But what's so great about it is it's basically just fan service for Final Fantasy fans. It's every main protagonist and antagonist of every Final Fantasy, or all the important ones, in one fighting game. And they were games on PSP, but now Square has announced Dissidia Final Fantasy for Japanese arcades. So yeah, that kind of sucks. I know neither of you two really played.
I actually did dabble in the first Dissidia, and I really enjoyed it.
It's so
Yeah,
good.
it's great.
I watched a Let's Play of it. It's like a 3D arena type.
Yeah,
fighter,
yeah,
right?
huh?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I'm going to pick it up it's on Vita, correct?
It is.
Yeah.
Do that. Have either of you two? Did you watch this trailer?
Yes.
Not for the new one, no.
Well, I'm gonna have it going here. I'll turn the sound off, but you
Okay.
can just kind of watch it here. It looks really good.
yeah, it's gorgeous.
I had my little story for this. I woke up kind of late-ish, and the first thing I saw was Dissidia, Final Fantasy announced, and I saw this next-gen looking screenshot. I didn't read anything else, and I just went to the video, and I started watching this video, and I proceeded to lose it. Basically, I'm a big fan of Dissidia, and when I saw this, and I'm like, oh my god, it's finally happening, they're making a new one, and I just lost it. I was banging on my desk, I was just shitting my pants there, just for a good 2 minutes. And then I called Kyle here, and I'm like, oh my god, dude, did you see? They're making Dissidia, I'm having a heart attack. And he was like, yeah, man, but it's for Japanese arcades only.
And that broke your heart.
And I said, what?
So now we're saving up money to go to make
To
a trip
Japan, just for this game. No, but so yeah, that really blows. But look at how good this looks. We're kind of watching it right now in the background.
It does look pretty slick.
Well, like you said, there is the potential of it coming to consoles.
I think so.
It'd be awesome.
The arcade market in America is pretty, small, but it's also small in Japan. Granted, I'm sure it's bigger, but it's not this big thing.
Yeah.
So I think maybe they put it in arcades, kind of test it out, and then maybe balance it, and then bring it to PS4 or something.
Well, dude, I know when I was going through my phone and I saw that story, and I saw Dissidia, and the same kind of thing hit me for like a split second. And it said Dissidia announced 4 Japanese arcade cabinets. And I was like, dude, I know Virgil's going to get that and get his hopes up for a split second. I didn't realize you were going to watch that entire video.
Yep.
And then call me and then have me be the
you be
destroyer of your hopes and dreams. And I'm so
did
sorry.
destroy my dreams.
Not my intentions.
I understand. But yeah, I am super excited for it. I think it'll come to PS4. I think it's a no-brainer. Granted, it is Square Enix, so... excuse me. Only time will tell. But I think... It's if they didn't bring it to PS4, it's like they just don't want money, because that for Square fans, that you're at that point printing money. You're just printing money.
Yeah, because it sold like hotcakes on PSP.
Yeah.
Both of them did. Duodecum and Dissidia.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. Was did the God dang, that's a tongue twister.
Dude.
Did the
those names are awful.
Dissidia games on PSP? Did they perform well?
Yeah,
I think they
You know,
performed
critically and
number-wise?
commercially.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
They were a hit.
They were so good.
another thing I want to bring up too. You know, for as much as you shit on Square Enix, Virgil, this is the second time you've lost
I've
your
been burned.
shit and shit your pants.
Yep.
When Square brings up a new product.
I made kind of I made a stats on Facebook. I'm like, how many times do I got to be burned by Square?
Yeah, it's bad, dude.
And Story actually commented and was like, you should already be done by now. And I was like, yeah, I should
Did he?
be. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, I should be, but I'm not for some reason. So
You got that Stockholm syndrome, man. The harder they whip you, just the faster you keep crawling back.
it's bad. But I'm super excited for that, and I think that's totally gonna come to PS4 eventually.
Fingers crossed.
A lot of JRPG news this week.
I have a feeling too. You know, Final Fantasy again is like the biggest. But you can call Mario Japanese because it is, but Final Fantasy's right up there in that echelon of franchises that
There's a lot of weight
that
to
are
it.
Japanese, but they have a huge
Not so much anymore.
Western audience. I mean,
But,
the name, everyone knows the name. You know, that's a gamer here.
And the name's been tainted, but Dissidia itself, especially, has, good grounds as far both of those games were great.
Kamari in Dissidia?
He's not.
He's not a main.
You think he'd be in the new one?
That'd be cool. I know with Duodecum, the characters they added, 7 got another character. They got Tifa. 8 got Laguna, which I lost my shit for.
Man, you lose a lot of shit.
I
for
lose.
Square Enix.
Dude, you need to get that checked out.
God.
Man, they have
love it.
They have a lot of your.
They have all of
your
my
poo.
of my
Of your
poo.
fecal matter.
What did I say? That never mind.
Sora.
Oh, that's actually been a little bit of a controversy. Is like if Kingdom Hearts should be included, and I'm nope.
Probably
that should
not.
be
No,
in
it should be core series.
Yeah.
I never played them, but I feel like
It wouldn't be right.
Yeah, I could agree with that.
Do their own. They call it the Legend of Sora.
Vivi.
Legend of Sora, huh?
Vivi.
No, sadly, he would be cool.
Yeah.
Trying to think who all got new characters that's escaping me. I feel like there weren't that Lightning.
No, the trailer there was Cloud and Cecil. If I'm correct.
Cecil was in there. I think. Wait, yeah. I don't remember if Cecil was in there.
Was that him
it's
going?
Actually, Chef Cecil. And
It is
Titus.
Cecil.
Excuse me.
Yeah. No, it's Titus and Cecil as far as I'm concerned. But, Cecil's in there.
Jacked.
Jekt. It was in. I don't know if he's in that trailer, but he's in the.
He's in the.
He's in
games.
the original
Yeah.
one, yeah.
Lightning.
Lightning is, yeah.
Dude, I'll totally play it then.
It's. I can't wait for it to possibly come to.
That's my
consoles.
main.
But anyway, moving from that, we had NIS had kind of an event, NIS America, and they announced Dissidia 5 to be PS4 exclusive, as well as the new not core Danganronpa game, but the kind of the spinoff also is getting a Western release.
Yeah, another episode.
Yeah,
Isn't that what it's called? It's like a third-person
That's not what they're
shooter.
calling it here, though.
is it not?
They're calling it something different here.
Are they?
I believe. Yeah.
Another episode, Ultra Despair Girls.
Oh, they just added to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And then this one is really weird. Rhodia and the Sky Soldier for Wii U and 3DS. I can't think of the last time NIS America, put stuff on Wii U or 3DS. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, that's been a while.
Wii U especially. I know nothing from Wii U.
They usually stick to Sony for a lot of their games. So that's kind of cool. I think they're kind of... NIS America specifically, and a lot of these other Japanese developers are realizing that there is a niche audience in America that wants those kind of games.
Right.
And I think they're getting better at tapping into that market. Yeah, it's a small market, but it's a market.
Yeah, it's still money
nonetheless.
to be made.
Well, as long as it's the good ones, like Danganronpa, it has. a very Western appeal to it.
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, I mean, yes, it's a crazy story and everything, but it reminds me a lot of the movies Battle Royale,
Yeah.
which Hunger Games aped off of.
Right.
I mean, and Danganronpa reminds me a lot of that for some reason.
Right, and
Like,
not only that, you also have like the Saw movies, which they're not anymore, but they were a big hit. People like that kind of, you know.
First Saw blew my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, it was crazy.
I used to be crazy about that series until it got bad.
Well,
it got
got
bad
bad
because
real
they
fast.
got lazy with it. But it's
Well, they
still
kept they realized, oh, we can milk this
yeah.
money.
It is like, to its credit, the one thing I think is cool about Saw, sorry to get off on this, but
That's cool.
is that it is like the new age, like Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Saw is for that generation, that slasher type movie.
I really did like
Yeah.
Saw when it was first coming out.
I like that idea.
I have either of you two played Dissidia at all?
I played a little bit of 3 and 4. And it's weird because I like strategy RPGs like that, but I never really got into it. And I don't think I gave it the time or attention that I should have.
I put a little bit into the first one and never got into it either.
When I worked at a Blockbuster, I had a customer who was really into Dissidia. And he was also the type of guy that anytime he brought up a new game to rent, and like, because he liked to talk to you about it and get feedback and stuff, we would talk about it, you know, but if he knew more about the game than you did, he was a total elitist about it. You know what I
Those
mean?
are the
Like,
worst, dude.
and since he was all about this Dissidia stuff, it just turned me off to it. Because I was like, I'm not gonna get into this with you. Like, and he would gush about Dissidia like all the time.
Anybody who just repeatedly gushes about one single game,
It turns
It's
people
annoying.
off, and it
Yeah.
sucks because I know that I probably do it for Final Fantasy VI. I know you do.
I
it
do it
for
for Persona
Golden.
badly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I fear that I've actually turned people off of Final Fantasy VI, but it's the best one. I promise. Like it.
Right.
It is.
But it's old enough, and there's never going to
be
be a
excited.
6-2. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can kind of get away with that. You know, Colin,
Yeah.
just shut the fuck up about that Persona, though.
Huh?
I can't hear it.
He gave me that. What did you say?
What'd you say?
All right, I'm out.
Just playing, I love you.
So another Japanese JRPG developer, not of a series that I never really cared about. The most I've played of this series, one in question being Star Ocean, was on the Super Nintendo. I had this thing where I don't like to start a series unless it's from the very beginning. So I got a fan translation of the first Star Ocean for Super Nintendo that we never got and started that. I played like 10, 20 minutes of it. That's it. But their developer Tri-Ace was acquired by a Japanese mobile company.
I wonder if maybe that mobile company will sell off Star Ocean separately, or if they're going to do just Star Ocean on mobile games. And
Yeah, according to this, that they didn't buy them to try to spread, their own stuff to consoles. They did it to put Star Ocean specifically on mobile. So that really sucks if you're a fan of Star Ocean. Or they did another popular Valkyrie profile. Excuse me.
oh wow,
Yeah, this what sucks. That series is basically dead now to you. To anyone who really cares,
Yeah.
I'm sure you're not going to
well,
get a.
I will say though too, mobile game, especially on like phones and stuff, these developers are starting to realize that yes, there is a bigger market there. But the flip side of that, and I don't know, this was some news that came out I think last week, but for the longest time, like on that Apple App Store, the biggest a file could be or a app could be is 2 gigs. They just doubled it to 4, or it might have been 4 and now it's 8. I don't remember. It was something like that. I think it was 4 and now it's 8. Regardless, apps can now be twice as big as they could have been before. So that does open up the potential for these to not be as sucky, because you really look at the processing power of, say, the latest iPhone or latest iPad or latest Galaxy or whatever. It's really pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's not the processing power I'm worried about.
It's just that
it's not going to be good.
you're used to getting those so dumbed down and watered down, and I'm sure that's what we got. But say they released it episodically, like Telltale, which I don't think that would work for an RPG.
And touch controls just for any game. That
You'd have to have like a Bluetooth controller for
Yeah,
sure to make it worth a
They're
damn.
too obtrusive.
Yeah,
you
I agree.
Are in the way all the time. It's too much.
But no, you're exactly right though. As a whole, those games are dead.
Yeah, and it sucks, especially if you're a fan of these games. Like, I can't imagine, if it was some series I really cared about. It's like, oh, this happened, because it's a weird, it's oddly more definite of a death than just like not hearing from the company.
Right.
It's like they're now sold to someone who's going to focus on mobile games and in general mobile games.
Yeah, you're never going to get that hardcore 100-hour
ever,
like RPG
unless they for
experience.
some reason sell them again, which
that's really got to be disheartening for fans of that series. I'm just pissed because I like sci-fi RPGs.
Right.
they're rare.
Especially sci-fi JRPGs. I mean,
You don't see them very often. And
Yeah.
I agree completely, man. And like you said, that's one of those things that's sad. Those games are never going to be, but maybe they'll port like the Super Nintendo one you mentioned that we never got. You know what I mean? Kind
Well,
of
that was never even translated, so I doubt.
right. But again,
But they could port some of their.
maybe they'll port it. Maybe they'll do something with it.
Yeah, I'm sure
it'll
they'll
probably suck.
It's like that Final Fantasy VI version
Yeah.
for iOS.
there hasn't been a whole lot. Final Fantasy though, they have transitioned more and more into an urban sci-fi ish
Right.
kind of settings anyway, right? I mean, that's
That's what made 7 so good. First time it was they kind of went to that
totally
futuristic-
different. Yeah, from the medieval-ish kind
and really 6
fantasy setting.
again.
you know.
Why 6 is so good? 6 was the first deviation from that fantasy. Like from 1 to 5, they were all fantasy. They were all
Just like high fantasy. Yeah.
And 6 was a lot more steampunk.
Yeah.
Really, before steampunk was even that popular. And then 7 went futuristic, and 8 was whatever the hell 8 was. And
It was
then-
weird.
Yeah. So as far as major players are concerned, we've gotten Star Ocean. Was it Xenoblade or Xenosaga?
You're talking about sci-fi RPGs?
Yes.
Yeah, Xeno.
Xenoblade, Xenosaga. Those are both. Or I don't know. Is Xenoblade kind of sci-fi, Virgil? Or
Well, I mean, there's like airships and stuff. So I mean, kind of.
X definitely looks sci-fi. It looks very spacey.
yeah.
Chrono,
Hack.
Chrono Trigger gets kind of sci-fi,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it is fantasy like overall. But
Yeah. The Dot Hack games.
haven't
Yeah.
played
Those
those.
are. Yeah, but they're like set in like an MMO-ish
Right.
virtual type world. Yeah, not a lot though.
Yeah.
Now of course the big one here is Mass Effect.
Right, but even that, it's not like turn-based.
Yeah.
You know.
No, yeah, more
Mass
traditional
Effect, especially
JRPG
later on,
style.
turned into a third-person shooter. But Mass Effect is amazing.
Cosmic Star Heroine that's coming out for PlayStation 4 and Vita, I believe. I'm
Is it
kind
one
of
of those?
excited for it because it's like a sci-fi RPG.
Oh,
Sweet.
that's pretty cool.
I love
Anyways,
sci-fi.
Star Ocean fans, that sucks.
Yeah, rip in peace.
Rip in peace. Yeah.
Next up, Nintendo president Iwata. His first name escapes me.
Satoru.
Satoru. Yeah, thank you. Iwata reports that the port strikes have caused Amiibo and new 3DS XL shortages, which would explain why GameStop was actually out of just the normal 3DSs at one point.
Which was
like,
weird,
online,
yeah.
And why this Amiibo, this whole like wave 3 of Amiibos has been a nightmare. I didn't know about this until I read this article that there was some kind of strike. And actually, I haven't read too into this article. Do you know?
Yeah, I know a little bit about it, and I actually was on. Forget what I was looking up, but anyways, somehow I ended up on CNN Money reading about this strike thing, and it's a big deal at the moment. That's they've got oranges sitting in crates in California, just sitting there rotting. There's all these carriers just sitting out there at sea, looking at a port that there ain't nobody there to unload the crap. Back in December, pardon me, McDonald's in Japan ran out of French fries.
Yeah, I heard about this. So that was from that same thing?
Yeah,
okay.
it's been going on, and excuse me
Are
again.
you okay?
Yeah,
Give me a drink?
I'm groovy. But no, what it is companies are having to airlift in their products and bypass those ports, and it's costing them a ton more money.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like automakers, like a lot of their manufacturing plants overseas, they can't make anything else because they've got plenty of parts made up, but they're stuck in transport.
Yeah.
They were saying that like the U.S. economy was losing like $1.6 billion a day or something like that. It's absurd.
I heard that same number.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Apparently, the reason that this hasn't affected game sales is because they're light enough to be shipped in via
air. That's exactly right. Yeah, and they said the heavier items was suffering. And you think about it. Our West Coast. That's the ports they use.
Yeah.
Just don't ship no Bowsers.
Yeah.
Don't
Right.
ship no Donkey
Bowsers are too
Kongs.
heavy.
Don't ship no King Daddy Days.
Yeah, apparently Amiibos are still too heavy to air in.
Too heavy.
I
Weird.
feel like I don't know how much of that I believe.
I
really.
believe
Like,
some of it,
I mean,
especially
I
like
think
he
it's
was
a
saying.
half-truth.
I think it is, but especially like with the new 3DSs. I mean, when you run out of black and red,
Yeah.
you know,
It's weird.
that is very weird, especially for a console that's just kind of a slight refresh of a console that's already out. You know what I mean? It's not like a whole new launch. You know, that's weird to run out of stock like that. And they even said, dude, we sold 335,000 of these things in the first week. And it's like, man, they could have sold more if they'd have had them.
So I don't really remember if this was in the last week, but some official from Nintendo came out and said why we're not getting the new 3DS, the normal size.
Yeah, that was within the last week, yeah.
Apparently, it's because they don't want to cause confusion between the 2DS and the new 3DS XL and the normal 3DS XL. Which basically, they're saying that we're too stupid to see the difference because Europe has all these. So
Don't want to get too defensive about it, but that's how I feel as well.
Yeah.
The end of story.
Yeah, that's just kind of a quick update to
sucks.
that.
Well, the fact of the matter is that someone, I can't remember who it was, some journalist talked to Reggie, the president of Nintendo of America, about it. And the flat out fact is that the once the XL released for the original 3DS family, the 3DS was dead in the water.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't sell anymore. It's like
But
the
see,
market spoke to us, is what he said.
Yeah.
I don't buy that was just because of the size. I think overall the original 3DS blows.
Yeah, it was
It's
poor
uncomfortable.
hardware.
It's hardware wise it's poor.
Yeah, and we talked
battery
about
life
that in the first
sucked.
episode. It was just the moment that XL came out a little over a year later, and it was like, man, it rendered that hardware obsolete.
Completely. Now imagine a normal, and actually a slightly bigger 3DS than the normal 3DS in that form factor of an XL. I think it would be comfy. My thing is, I think with the faceplates, they're missing out on
Some serious money.
Yeah, I think that would help push the sales of the normal one. But I also understand that shelf space is very, very hard to get. Much less for these, they're having enough trouble with amiibos, much less the faceplates.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. Is they're not even worried about the new 3DS, just base model here, because we're so, hooked up with these amiibos. Like, Nintendo knows America is like the only place the amiibo shortage is like a huge issue. Like,
Well, yeah, you looked at they had the deal of the top 10 best-selling amiibos in each region, and Marth was in there for every region except for America.
Yeah.
Like, we just didn't get enough of those, clearly.
Exactly. Link was number one pretty much across
the board. Yeah.
Marth only registered, I think, in Japan. But then again, Fire Emblem's been a thing in Japan
I
forever.
feel like he was in the European ones as well.
I feel like I remember him just being on the.
Is that it?
I think so.
I could have sworn I saw him in it.
So I remember thinking it was weird that he would.
But I'm also an idiot, so I have that going for me.
I mean,
So.
Mario took number one somewhere, though.
I know that one place.
Australia.
Yeah,
Australia.
some place had a weird. Is that what?
That's all I have to say about that.
That's how Australians sound?
No, I was just saying,
Oh, okay.
The Mario. That was like Italian Australian.
Yeah.
Oi.
Yeah. What?
Rails.
Yep, we just derailed it.
Last
Amiibos
on the news
Shortage suck.
thing. Hey, you want to stop talking?
Yeah.
The Order 1886. It's a PS4 game. It came out. Apparently not very good. But it's not very bad either. Kind of in between. People kind of said it was okay.
Didn't play it yet.
Me either.
I don't have an opinion on it.
Yeah. My opinion is this is like the fourth or fifth. Well, maybe that's a little much. But this is the at least third game, I think, in a row as far as Sony's first parties that has been pretty disappointing.
A lukewarm critical reception.
Well, not only that, it's pretty much been the story of this entire generation so far.
With PS4 specifically.
This generation has been pretty disappointing so far.
Mm-hmm.
And we're 14 months into it. I mean, you look back, people look back at like the PS3 and laugh at its early days, but by this point in time, we already had Uncharted.
Yeah.
Or
Did
close
we?
to. I mean, it
yeah.
released in September. So, 3 or 4 months away,
Yeah.
My thing is, I think the Xbox One's doing fine as far as their titles go. I can't think of. I mean, what's the best PS4 exclusive right now? Not counting Uncharted or Last of Us.
I guess Infamous.
And even that game is like,
I mean, it's
for me,
good.
a 7.
Yeah.
You know? Whereas, the Xbox One, Forza ranked really high. Master Chief Collection, aside from the online, ranked pretty high.
Yeah, and Sunset Overdrive.
Sunset Overdrive. It's
And Dead
really
Rising.
weird. And Dead Rising. It's weird how the PS4 is outselling the Xbox, marginally, but with no games really.
Yeah, well, but that's the thing too, though. If you look at the original Xbox and the 360, Microsoft has never had problems getting exclusives out of the gate. They've had a problem keeping them throughout the span of their console. I mean, the Elder Scrolls was exclusive to the original Xbox. That's crazy. Morrowind was only on that.
No, it was on PC too, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, but I mean, as far as
consoles, yeah.
If you look at the 360, I mean, dude, Oblivion was exclusive for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Mass Effect was exclusive for a little bit. BioShock was exclusive for a bit.
Well, a lot of that was just how difficult the PS3 was to
Right.
develop
There's also
for.
that, but even then, still, when you went shopping, dude, people would even say right then, "Oh man, there's way more games on 360 than there is PS3." But I think that Sony is really trying to just push out because they've said, man, hey, every single one of our developers is working on something. And what was it, Sony Bend that did the order?
No, that Santa Monica did.
Santa Monica.
We still don't know what Ben's doing.
Huh. Well, Santa Monica has been falling short here lately.
Yeah, they did the God of War.
Ascension?
No, they did the PSP. Well, they may have done that, but I know they did the PSP games. So people shit on for some reason, but those games are great as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I haven't played the order yet. I have no as far as my own opinions, I have no opinions on it. These are basically just my opinions on the general opinions of these last few games and how it's been an odd trend. People are now worried about Bloodborne. You're out of your mind if you think that game's going to be bad. Studio Japan.
I think you're right. I think that's going to be the first game that's exclusive
Or is that
rates high.
I could be. It's not Studio Japan who's doing that. Who's doing that?
It's not From Software, is it?
Yeah. It's from. God, I'm
From
drunk.
Software.
Yeah, it's From Software.
Yeah.
From Software is doing that, and they've made nothing but exclusively good games, exclusively great games.
If you're a fan, I mean,
Yeah,
there's
Dark Souls is the best
He
game of
enjoyed
this last
Sonic more.
generation. in my opinion.
there are people who don't like the Souls games.
Yeah, and those people are wrong, and I feel sorry for them. But that aside, I think Bloodborne's gonna be great, and I'm super excited for it.
I'm sure it'll do well critically, and
I'm buying it day one, and I think From really gets it. They're a developer who they get it. They get that core gameplay.
Right.
And granted, it's a new IP, but it's not that new.
I think that's part of it too. Is that all these new games coming out? They're trying so hard to show how pretty this new hardware is.
The Order apparently really did.
Yeah,
that.
apparently it's gorgeous. But even with Infamous, it's like, dude, if you could have dialed back the time you took on the graphics just a hair and put that time and effort into the story, that would have fixed a lot of that game's problems. I loved Infamous Second Son, but then again, it's like, man, if they could have taken just a little more time with that story, and made it just hashed out a little more, and it was better once you went through it good and evil. But then again, still, that story is the number one thing that holds that game back.
It's the worst Infamous game,
Yeah, it is.
in my opinion.
It definitely is.
so do you guys feel like there's not a must-play PS4 exclusive yet?
No,
Not yet.
I bought mine for Infamous and could have totally waited.
So how do you think all this happened with the sales of the
Completely-
new gen? Is it just because Xbox One completely dropped the ball at their right out the gate?
Basically, that E3 is unlike anything that we've ever seen, just on the level of how badly Sony just destroyed Microsoft at that conference. And the reaction of that conference is it was on another level of how crazy it was.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest reason. I think Xbox dropped the ball, and Sony took advantage of that with their price and with their marketing.
Yeah. Well, not
down
only
the pipe.
that, there's been a lot of backstepping by Microsoft this generation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's been multiple. That entire E3 they backpedaled on. They backpedaled on the price. Already. They dropped it to $399, took out the Kinect, and they dropped it to $350. They went back up to $399. Now they're back to $350. They're they've
trying.
I don't think they have a. They just do not have a clear cut plan for this console.
I feel like if the Master
Well, they
Chief
did, but they
Collection
threw it out the window.
would have came out the gate strong, they could have brought the price back up to $400.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think you just nailed it. I think they did have a plan, and the entire dude. I've never seen anything like it. The
was
entire
unreal.
market backlashed on Microsoft when that
Yeah.
happened. And that's the thing too.
They
man, is-
changed everything.
yeah, it did.
Everything.
It absolutely did. I mean, within a week, they're like, and
Like
then
they changed every single.
I think
Pretty much everything they said at that conference, they just changed.
yeah, and that's why I think that was their plan, and now they're like, well, crap, well, back to the drawing board, and they're having to scramble and put it together piece by piece. You know,
What makes me think is like, think of all the money, and like, and just how much time and effort went into developing these things. Like there was someone who worked, like maybe a small team or a few guys, who worked on that family sharing software.
Yeah.
For probably years.
Yeah,
Years of his life.
Somebody had to work on because they were talking about, once they were like, oh wait, you can do used games at certain retailers. Somebody worked on that software.
Yeah.
At like, we're gonna deploy this at GameStops where you just, you register the disc, you unregister it, blah blah blah. But that just goes to show you how busted those thoughts and theories were too. It's like, man, I get it. You want developers to make more money off of used games and blah blah blah. But I'm sorry, man. That's just. We're not there yet.
No, and I think next console gen we will be, but
I think it's possible.
They were a little ahead of their time, really, because I mean they did have some cool ideas.
Yeah,
just very poor execution, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But with the order being apparently kind of average, like I said, we haven't played it. I plan on getting it and maybe doing a review for the channel, so stay tuned for that if I can get a copy. But this kind of leads into other games that, for us, were disappointing in general. That you were maybe excited for, and you were disappointed, or you didn't have really any expectations, and you were disappointed just in general. Games that disappointed you, surprisingly.
JC, you got one?
My first gaming disappointment would probably have to be the very first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle game on NES.
God, yes.
Even as a kid, being a huge Turtles fan, I knew that game was some hot garbage.
Dude, not only that, whenever I got that game and I noticed all their masks are red. That was a red flag right there, like literally a red flag.
Yeah.
And game is hot garbage.
To its credit, all 4 Turtles played very differently.
Except for Raphael was useless. In that entire game, Raphael was useless.
He had some speed, but you had to be on point with your range with that guy because his side just did
Donatello
not
was the only one worth a crap.
He was, but he was
Donnie's
slow.
my boy.
Like,
It don't
but
matter.
you can take Rocksteady out like nobody's business with
Dude,
Donatello.
there was just glaring issues with that game. But it's okay. Turtles 2 made up for that.
It was a huge disappointment for me, especially because I was a terrible gamer at that age. I did have a friend though that I watched him beat the Shredder in that game. So kudos to him.
Man, yeah.
Wherever you are,
Man, I need that dude's address, and I will wire him a check and a Medal of Honor.
Yeah. I was actually skilled enough to get through the dreaded underwater.
The dam.
I could do that.
I still have that spot memorized, dude. I've been through it so many times.
Yeah, it's tough. But the game itself, just wasn't. I don't know. Just a disappointment.
It's extremely difficult, dude. And it's just like, man, that overworld part, and like sometimes those trucks could like run you over.
Yes.
And dude,
you
it
run
was
out
just,
of
it was
run out of
awful.
damn missiles while you're trying to blow up barricades and stuff. Like it was just something that I don't know, just a huge disappointment all around. That's the whole point of why we brought this damn game up.
The NES as a whole was pretty bad about that, especially licensed games. I mean, that was just a market that they were trying to tap into, and don't get me wrong, some of them are enjoyable in the fact that they're terrible.
Yeah.
But you're right, man. Now, again, Turtles 2 and 3, the Manhattan Project, and Turtles 4, Turtles in Time, made up for that. There wasn't a turtle game, after that on a cartridge that sucked that bad.
You know what pissed me off the most about Turtles 1, though, was, it's a classic NES thing where when you shift screens, and if you go back, it's like classic Mega Man, the enemies respawn.
Right, but they respawn in really shitty places.
Yeah, they would respawn in shitty places, and they were random different enemies. So you might have a foot soldier in front of you the first time, but if you fuck up and go back, and then go back to the next screen, you might have one of those awful like little mutant leaping things that come off the ceiling at you. You know what I mean? Like,
also, one part of that game that was so busted that I would love to point out is, excuse me, when you're headed to the dam and you're inside that little warehouse, and that one spot at the top where you're like your head is like scraping against the roof, and there's
you got to leap that little gap.
No. You know how you get past it?
You
don't
just run across.
You just run across it. You don't jump.
Yeah.
Like, how awful can you be to a human being?
Yeah.
Like, as a kid, dude,
And who were the turtles aimed at when that game came out? I mean, I'm sure the animated
Kids.
show was already out and everything.
Dude,
You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
it wasn't like just the comic book fans.
Dude, here's what drove me nuts about that. I love my father. He is great. That man is brilliant. And I will never forget as a kid, I was going through that section, kept trying to jump. And so, of course, I did what I still do to this day. I hit an issue, and I holler at Dad, and he comes running. And my dad just walked right over it, dude. And I felt so defeated. He was just like, man, you couldn't do that? Like, it's that easy. Just
and then you got to go underwater.
Right? And then you have to do that hard-ass dance sequence.
God,
dude, it was it was punishment in cartridge form, dude. That game was hard.
Okay, well, there's Turtles. Luckily, Turtles 2, 3, and 4 turned that around. But Turtles 1, disappointment. Another disappointment I had, we talked about it last episode, I believe.
Well, before you get into that, the reason I don't have much to say about that is because the NES a little bit before my time. I had a Super Nintendo and an NES. Like, all my Super Nintendo experience came from my cousin's place, and they also had an NES, but we just played the Super Nintendo more.
Yeah.
Right.
I played Zelda 2 like once or twice, and I was like, oh god, what is this?
See, I think that game catches just a hair too much flag.
I mean, I haven't gone back to it, so it was just something I wasn't interested in.
Well, if we're talking Turtles 1 and you missed out on NES and Turtles 1,
Count your stars.
Yeah, don't worry about it, dude. It's,
I have
it's
it.
okay.
Oh, I have to play it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll whoop your ass.
It will whoop
I think I might
your
have
ass.
it. I don't know.
Next disappointment for me, we talked about it again last episode, I believe, but I was a bit of a Sega kid because I got sold on the X-Men cover art. X-Men. That's just what it was called.
X-Men for Genesis, yeah.
We still don't know who made it. Doesn't even matter.
Wait, really?
I Wikipedia'd it last week. I know it was a nobody.
Huh.
Yeah.
They went bankrupt after that.
Cover art was so badass.
Dude, it was killer. Dude, and even the presentation of that game was awesome.
Yeah.
That generation was the worst about awesome box art and bad games.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Some
it was really bad.
killer stuff. Yeah, I got rid of my Super Nintendo as quick as I could so I could be Wolverine in a video game. And
Made the right decision, JC.
Of course,
dude,
you know.
mean you didn't play Wolverine on NES by LJN?
No, I didn't know that existed.
Speaking of hot garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's LJN, bro.
Actually, I do now, but I mean, like at the time,
X-Men and Wolverine games on NES, especially X-Men, are some of the worst games
X-Men was
I've
like
ever
the
played.
Gauntlet ripoff.
Dude, it was unplayable.
It was bad, yeah.
Yeah.
But so you had X-Men on Sega Genesis, and that's why I got a Sega Genesis. And that game, that is probably the most burnt I've ever been on a video game. I mean, it didn't even matter that I was playing as my idols as a kid. Of course, the Turtles were my first idols, but the X-Men is what I evolved to.
Your idols haven't been good to you, bro.
They really. I mean, at first they weren't. At first
Turtles
they were,
4 though.
They gave me a little tough love at first, but they
Oh.
came back around.
Yeah.
Turn the beat
Turtles 4. That's a topic for a different day. We will get to that. Turtles 4. Turtles in Time.
I have that. We need to play that for that.
Oh
It's
my
so
gosh. X-Men, you fucking suck. Thanks for nothing.
Well, for me, man, as far as like the first time I was actually disappointed in a game, man, I actually thought back a little bit further, and huge Mega Man fan as a kid. Now, sadly, unlike you, Virgil, I had an NES. I missed out on Super Nintendo. I had friends that had one.
I'm so sorry.
I know. But at the time, I was kind of in between that age to where I was still too young for me to have like the latest and greatest tech. And my parents did an amazing job of basically like me not thinking like, oh, this is a Super Nintendo, it's better. It's like, oh no, that's just another console. You don't really need that. You've got a Nintendo.
Yeah.
And then I got a PlayStation 1. And I remember going into, I think it was a KB Toys, if that tells you. And they had Mega Man for PS1. And no, people, this isn't Mega Man 8. Granted, that is a disappointment. But I bought Mega Man X4, and it was amazing. So good. And keep in mind, I'd never played Mega Man X. The first Mega Man X game I played was Mega Man X4. Which is crazy. I know. It's crazy. But I loved it. Dude, it was so good. You had all the secret armor and stuff. And it was so killer. And Mega Man X5 came out. And I went and snatched it up. good God, was I disappointed.
Huh.
Mega
I
Man
haven't played those
X5
games.
is pretty much hot garbage, and what sucks about that is after X4, that series went down the crapper.
What went wrong between X4 and X5?
Dude, they spoiled the broth. Is what happened. Broth spoiled. Man, it was just one of those things that the robot masters or what, I forget what the Mavericks were not very well thought out. The whole gameplay mechanic, it was kind of a doomsday type thing where it's like, oh, you got X amount of time before the blah, blah, blah. Zero wasn't in it. You couldn't play as Zero. And it was
Coolest
just
Mega Man character.
It was just lame. They tried to cool guy it up, but I was extremely disappointed in that. Another one that I was very disappointed in, and I have this one and one other, and then I'll shut up.
Oh, you got 3.
I got 3 big
Three over
disappointments.
here. Wow, I only have 1 so far.
And number 2, hear me out, but Halo 2 was a huge disappointment. Now keep in mind,
Wait, don't people love that game?
no, keep in mind, I loved Halo 1. I had an original Xbox at launch, and I got Halo. I also skipped school. Keep in mind, I had Xbox Live for about 3 or 4 months at this point, played Crimson Skies online. And it really, even at that point, nobody quite knew exactly what online gaming was truly capable of at that point. But I skipped school that day. And I went into our Hastings. I was there. I didn't make it at midnight, but I was there that morning. Like, they opened at whatever time. We were sitting there in the parking lot. I go in. I buy Halo 2 Collector's Edition. And by that, I mean my mom bought it for me. And I get it home. I pop it in. And I saw this Xbox Live icon, and I was like, oh, man, I'll try that. 207, it was like 280 people were online playing Halo 2 at this point. It was pretty wild. Which, pardon me, keep in mind, me and my best friend at the time had played ridiculous amounts of Halo 1. And so I went through the campaign. Do not get me wrong, the multiplayer of Halo 2, amazing. It is. It's fantastic. There's no arguing that. But the campaign for Halo 2 disappointed me so bad. I mean, they tried to do the Empire Strikes Back, type ending, and it didn't hold enough weight, Like, you grab this bomb and you just leap out of the back of this ship and you ride it all the way down to the Earth. Like, are you kidding me?
Wow, spoilers.
For a game that's 10 years old now. I mean, but dude, and here's the thing too, is 2 of my favorite weapons they took out. I love the assault rifle, and I love the Magnum, which in Halo 1, who didn't love the Magnum? It was ridiculously
You know which gun I
overpowered.
liked from the one time I played Halo? The circle-y looking gun with the pink spikes coming out of
The
it.
Needler.
I like the Needler.
Yeah, absolutely, man. But again, I was disappointed in that. And the other thing too, this is just a little personal thing, but the aiming was slightly different in Halo 2, and I could not hit things as well in Halo 2. Now again, that's something that didn't ruin the game for me, but just that campaign, because Halo 1's campaign was one of those campaigns, like, as you go through it, that thing is long-winded. There's only 10 chapters, but dude, that thing is long-winded for sure. One of the longest first-person shooters like that, one of the longest campaigns in a game like that I've ever played. Outside of maybe like Resistance 1. But man, I just remember playing Halo 2 and being done with it so quickly and being so disappointed. And not only that, but just the story in general, I was pretty disheartened about. The online was awesome. Everybody was, and then within weeks, everybody was playing it, and I got on there and had a lot of fun with it. But again, campaign of Halo 2 is disappointed. And my third one, last but certainly not least, is Virgil's favorite company, Square Enix. I have never been so insulted by a game, and I mean this with every bit of my being. I have never been more insulted by a game than Final Fantasy 13-2. And that is coming from a fan of 13. I will defend that game. I make a decent enough argument for it. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
So what's wrong with 13-2?
13-2, at first, is not bad. I feel like, as Virgil was saying earlier, I got catfished by 13-2, okay? Like, I start playing it, and the gameplay's not bad. I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong, they go for the kind of Pokemon thing, which I don't hate. I think that's great. But then again, you do lose that connection with your party members. It's like you only have the 2 humans, then you have like the 1 or 2 monsters that fight beside you. And that part was kind of neat in the fact that you could really get a pretty diverse party pretty early on.
I can't think of a JRPG that has that mechanic that I like.
Yeah, I mean, Pokemon and Ni no
See, I
Kuni.
don't even count. Ni no Kuni is probably the only exception.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe...
And even that, I didn't like it that much.
And again, we had this conversation, I think, on here before. Dream Drop Distance. It had
Yeah, I
kind of
haven't-
that mechanic, and
haven't
I
played
liked
that.
it. I thought it was fine. But 13.2, it felt thrown together. Now, keep in mind, too, I didn't do a ton of side quests and whatnot. But, dude, I was done with that game in like 27 hours. And not only that, again, gameplay, 13.2 is fine. 13.2 plays fine. But, dude, its story and presentation is take hot garbage, right? Wrap it up in hot garbage. Set it in the sun for about a week. Throw some dead skunks on it. Bring it back. That's how much hot garbage that story is. And not only that.
Week old skunk hot garbage.
I know you know it. JC, do you mind guys, y'all mind a spoiler? We
Nope.
sure don't. Okay, great. Here it is. Literally, the ending of that is that all of everything is gone. Like, time itself becomes broken, and there's all this time traveling and junk like that, and it's handled extremely poorly. And you do all this crap where at the very end, oh, this is the end of everything. The end. And when that happened, which keep in mind, too, at this point, I'm already kind of getting the idea of like, oh, wow, this game is a disaster. I felt like a representative of Square Enix came out of my TV and hawked the biggest loogie in my face and just smeared it. I've never
please
been
be
more
excited.
offended by a game's ending and by, like, dude, even like Mario 2 was a dream, blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah, I get that. I could see where that sucks. You feel like you've been played.
It's a Mario game. What is that? I've never
Right.
understood that.
But dude, guys, if you're curious, just look up Final Fantasy 13-2 ending. I was straight up offended. I went and bought that game at launch.
Here's the thing, Kyle. When you make a sequel to an okay Final Fantasy game, I mean, with sequels especially, they can they either get better or get worse. And clearly in this case it got worse. So you take an okay.
Well, dude,
And-
13-2 felt like Square had a list, and it was like, here's all the things that Final Fantasy diehards liked about 13 and that they didn't like about 13. And here's all the things that your casual audience liked about 13 and didn't like about 13. And I feel like in the development of 13-2, they just went through with a Sharpie and just checked off each of those boxes and threw it together.
It wasn't a very good game.
It was
I
hot
played-
garbage.
I didn't finish it. I played a little bit of it. Don't like it.
You missed nothing.
Yeah.
And again, like you said, 13 compared to the rest of the series is okay. But for a modern RPG like that, it's good. Keep in mind,
It's good.
RPGs, especially JRPGs in this day and age, they're not held to the golden standard of Super Nintendo and PS1 days. I don't think we'll ever see that again.
I disagree.
I think there might be, like we talked about, the other week. I think that a renaissance is on the way, but I still think it'll be a niche market. I still
Yeah.
don't think.
Well, it's not going to be a big publisher either, or a big developer.
Pardon me.
I mean,
Yeah, but-
it's going to be to the quote-unquote indie people to
Right,
do
but
that.
if you
Well,
remember back in
Atlas
those
is
days,
gonna-
though, like those were the games to have, to quote, like in this day and age, it's shooters. Like
Well, see, I
everybody
think-
wants to play the Call of Duties.
I think Persona 5 is going to be pretty big.
Oh, Persona 5 is going to be huge.
How traditional do you think it's going to be, though?
Persona 5?
I think it's going to
Very.
be. I think it's going to be
Very.
more traditional than you think. I think it's going to be very.
I
Traditional.
think it's going to be as traditional as any of the others. From
yeah.
what we've seen, the menus and...
Yeah, it has to be. I don't think it's going to go free base or anything like that. It'll still be turn based. From everything that I've seen, it's going to be just a little bit modern take on Persona 4 as far as
Basically,
skin goes.
Persona 4 plus Catherine
Yeah,
is what
add to cart.
So
I get.
dumb puzzles.
No, actually, mind-challenging puzzles that if you didn't like it, you were probably too dumb to figure it out.
Wow. Throwing that shade. So,
kidding.
You went there.
for me,
I did.
I've been, this whole time, this past probably 15, 20 minutes that we've been doing this segment, I've been trying to think. And I'll go with the first one and only one that comes to mind so far. And it's of recent memory is the Legend of Korra game done by Platinum. The people who made Bayonetta and Vanquish.
Yeah.
That's got to be.
Well, that's when they announced the developer. We talked about it, like, dude, oh, man, Platinum is doing that game?
Platinum,
Yeah.
of all people. Yeah. And it gave off vibes. It didn't preview well. There were some bad vibes around it, but I'm like, okay, I'm sure it'll get better. There's no way Platinum can do this wrong. And now it's very clear that by Platinum, they mean a very, very small part
Their
of
B
Platinum
team.
was given this game to work on for what I can only assume is like a year, maybe. Like
Yeah.
they clearly had no time and no money to make this game because it was not good.
Well,
And it was
Korra was one
very,
of those
very,
things
very
too, though. That
disappointing.
show, as a whole, man, it was a pretty rocky thing as far as budgets go. No, I don't-
Budgets go.
budget
yeah,
wise,
for sure.
So that might have been one of those things that it started out as something that was supposed to be bigger, and then maybe Nickelodeon or somebody pulled some funding.
I assume they just handed it to Activision and just,
Oh, Activision published it.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yep. So that one was incredibly disappointing for me. I was gonna review it. The game was so bad I didn't even want to finish it. It was not fun. It was incredibly hard, and not in a fair way. Okay, I see that your game is hard to pad out the fact that it's not really fun or that long, because it's apparently pretty short too. Then aside from that, I mean, I'm trying to think. I mean, this is cliche, but I rented Superman 64 one time from a Blockbuster and cried for a week. That was my game for a week, and it blew.
yeah, that's bad. We've all had those like bad renting experiences, though.
Oh yeah. I'm trying to think. Not
10-2?
yeah, I mean 10-2 didn't happen, so I don't even know what that is.
You're just a happy gamer, aren't you?
I am. I
Just
can't.
overall.
Yeah, I can't think of really anything.
I really am
disappointing me.
pretty happy myself, but again, those three
Especially
games.
in these days, it's very hard to be disappointed when
Yeah.
kind of like we were talking about, how good a game is before you get it most of the time these days.
Yeah. Yeah, and
So-
that's me. I like, for instance, the order I was interested in, and I guarantee you, if the reviews were coming out and they were 9s, 9.5s, I'd probably already have it in my hands. But I'm sorry, I'm not going out and spending $60 on a 6, on a 7.
Yeah.
Well, can you
No.
imagine spending just about that much money on an X-Men game back in like 1994-ish?
Yeah.
I mean, that's like...
I couldn't imagine having a Genesis back then, you poor thing.
Yeah, you were on the wrong side of that battle.
There
my
were some
friend.
good games on Genesis.
There
I
were
mean,
some good games on Genesis, all
Yes.
of which you can get for $4.95 now.
It doesn't hold a candle to the
Genesis.
Nintendo
It was okay. That's basically quote.
Yeah.
Sonic 2, Sonic 3, Sonic Spinball, Contra
JC,
Hard
I
Corps,
wanna-
Mutant League Hockey.
It's so fucking sad to just watch you try to defend it. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry that you had to go through that.
I'm gonna carry that flame forever.
The Genesis sucks. And Super
I love
Nintendo.
Super Nintendo is Super Nintendo's actually, I don't know. Nintendo 64 is probably my favorite console of all time. But Super
I could talk some
Nintendo-
mad trash about the 64.
Really?
Yep. What's weird, it is my first console. It's what I grew up on. I have all the nostalgia glasses in the world for it. I think aside from its key titles, the 64 is not that great at all.
Oh, its third-party games were awful.
And it's one of the hardest systems to go back to. Granted, both systems in that generation were.
Yeah,
But-
PS1's hard to go back to, man. And again, my nostalgia goggles are thick for that console.
I think the 64.
We'll save that battle for another time.
Yeah, we will. I think the Super Nintendo is the best console ever made.
I mean, I probably won't. I probably couldn't argue with that. Nintendo 64 though, just due to nostalgia, is probably
Well, there's a difference between what was the best console, what was my favorite too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Facts are facts.
I did specify favorite, right?
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
No, you said something like, "I love Sega. Sonic's the greatest mascot of all time." Blah blah blah. I wasn't listening.
So, not to, I don't want to lose any more Sonic fans here. But
Right?
Sonic just sucks. And I'm sorry. And, no, Sonic doesn't suck. It's just not good. That's about all we need to say.
That's the thing. Like we said last week, I want Sonic games to be good.
Yeah.
Please give me a great Sonic game. I will play it. I will love it. I loved Sonic Adventure 1 and 2. I made that obvious, but
So we're running, a good length here. I think we got time for one more thing. So I'm in the mood to talk. I don't want it to stand. I'm not done yet. Hit me with something, guys. What do you guys want to talk about? None of that's catching my eye.
well, I was going to talk about something that I thought was pretty neat.
Okay.
I ran across a pretty neat find a few weeks ago.
Cool finds.
I had a gentleman come into my store and sold me a Space Invaders tabletop game.
Space Invaders 2.
Space Invaders 2.
Yeah.
Forgive me. Not the arcade cabinet, but like the tabletop with
It's like the coffee table.
the coffee table ones. Yeah.
Edition or whatever.
It's got that sick wood grain. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is a very neat piece. It's a piece that I thought was really neat and unique. It's got player 1 controls on one side, player 2 on the other. Of course, we've all kind of played it together, and
The wood grain is the best thing about it, in my opinion.
right. It already rigged up with the button for the extra quarters. It's just one of those pieces that you don't see stuff like that very often.
It's very
from
neat.
a very different age of gaming.
My favorite thing about it is the angle that you have to play it at.
Right.
With that
Yeah,
chair.
it's the most comfortable.
I love back pain. Let me tell
Yeah.
you.
Oh,
That's,
wow.
that's my favorite thing in the whole
Dude,
world.
you need like a little midget stool just to sit at it, which
Oh,
I
yeah.
need to get a couple of those too. I'll
So-
get like the little tyke chairs.
Boys, we're coming to the end here. Coming to the final stretch of episode 5 of Super TurboCast. Before we go, what have you guys been playing?
I actually, funny enough, just started playing Persona 1, the PSP version, on my Vita. I tried it here about 6-8 months ago, and like, it's unplayable. But I went through it with a new set of eyes, and it's fun. It's good. It's very good. Very dark, like you'd
Fanboy
expect
eyes.
from the series, But I'm kind of fanboying out on it. I'm enjoying it. Outside of that, that's the only thing new I've been playing.
Well, that's cool. What about you, JC?
I have been under weather
That's right.
For,
I haven't seen you on PSN at all.
about a week, so I haven't played anything, to be honest.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Completely boring week for me of
That- Yeah.
fevers and
Dreams.
Death, dying.
tears and death.
Lots of death, dying, which kind of segues into what I've been playing. I've been playing Dying Light, and it's okay. It's pretty good. It's surprisingly good.
Which console?
PS4.
PS4.
I don't have an Xbox One. I guess I could play it on PC, but
Yeah, and it's not last gen; it's only next gen.
yeah.
Which I think helps that game.
It was supposed to
substantially.
be both, but
Is that the first truly next gen game?
no. The first truly next gen game is. There was one, but I can't think of it. It might be.
I believe you.
It might be
Because
actually.
they were developing a Dying Light, but they
They were.
canceled it, right? Because
Yes.
they were just like, we can't make it
Nah,
work.
there's got to be one that was just PS4. I can't remember. This is gonna bother me now. Anyway, I've been playing
Well, I
that.
guess like Infamous Second Son. It obviously.
Well, I mean,
came
like
out,
third party.
Yeah.
I feel like I thought Shadow of Mordor, but yeah, that came to PS3 and 360. I don't know. That might be.
Maybe. Yeah. Who knows?
It's gonna bother me now.
Anywho,
Anyway,
so you're playing Dying Light.
I'm playing Dying Light. It's surprisingly good. I've never played Mirror's Edge outside of, and we'll save this for next time. We kind of have kind of like we were talking about last week with mind-blowing moments. Mirror's Edge was the first time a quote-unquote next-gen game at the time blew my mind. I remember just taking the controller and walking up to a wall, to a cinder block wall, and thinking like, oh my god, this cinder block wall looks so detailed. I'm not even kidding. I'm like, it looks so good. It's not just a flat texture. There are like bumps. There's like tessellation.
Right.
This is the same guy who climbed the tower in Vendetta.
In
Yeah.
Die Hard, yeah.
Just took in the sides.
Yeah.
Oh,
But Dying Light is cool. It has a lot of cool parkour stuff. The parkour works surprisingly well. Like you look at a ledge and you jump to it, you're gonna climb it. And it's awesome just how fluid the parkour gameplay is, and just it's really good. It's surprisingly good again.
Is it scary?
Yes, it's fucking terrifying.
Oh,
What makes this game really interesting, aside from the parkour aspects, is the day-night cycle. Again, what kind of like the Dying Light name comes from. When it gets nighttime, a certain type of zombie comes out that is super fast and terrifying, and you basically have to run away from. And this game is not one of those games that has a bullshit night where it's quote-unquote night, but somehow you can still see outside. That shit is pitch black, and you have a flashlight, and that's it. And it also
boy.
has a feature that as you're running, you hold a triangle, and you can look back as you're running in slow motion. So you look back, and then for a minute, it's slow motion, so you can look back and see this terrifying thing right behind you. It's I don't go out
It's
at
like
night.
snarling and growling and everything.
It's
and
terrifying. I don't go out at night.
No, thank you.
But
it's
you get like
Minecraft then.
yeah, kinda.
You
in
don't,
it.
don't go out at night.
You get double XP. with the Doritos
with
and the Mountain
Doritos.
Dew. And the way it has a lot of RPG elements too, and how you upgrade your abilities, and there's skill trees.
Well,
and things.
Techland did a great job in those aspects with Dead Island.
Yeah, it's like Dead Island, except above average.
It's like what we expected out of Dead Island the first time.
Yeah, I've been playing that. I've been playing some of that P4G. Some more of that.
Persona 4 Golden, for people who don't know that.
Yeah.
If you're at this part of the podcast, you know what P4G is.
Yeah,
Probably.
they're like, might as well just rename this Persona podcast.
Persona Cast.
Persona Cast.
Persona Cast.
That's pretty good, I guess. Then I've also been playing. I like 3 better. I've also been playing some of that Kingdom of Hearts 2.
Oh, boy.
0.5.
God. 0.5 HD remix.
Man, how
Ultra.
well has that game aged?
Those games age so well.
Especially 2. Like, graphically, 2 has aged so incredibly well.
See, I think they both age. Both of their cutscenes where the faces are fully animated look just as good as. I mean, I would not blink at that if that was a current gen game.
Right.
Because that art style is so cartoony that it looks fine. It looks great. What sucks is when you transition from those to the PS2 texture, swapping between mouth open and mouth closed.
Yeah.
That really that's what sucks. And as I'm playing this game, man, I'm just thinking of Kingdom Hearts 3 and thinking of all
Me
these
too.
cutscenes where I'm reading and I'm like, this is all gonna be fully voiced and acted, and Kingdom Hearts 3 is gonna be great.
I can't wait.
It's gonna be so good.
It's going to be the next Last Guardian.
Hopefully they don't square it up.
They don't. Yeah. What else have I been playing? I've been playing something else, but I can't think of it.
Freedom Wars anymore?
I'm getting close to dropping Freedom Wars.
Why is
that
that?
story can go away. I don't care at all.
It didn't bother me none.
It's so boring.
I just kept pressing X and skipped through it.
Well, then what do you mean it didn't bother you? You didn't even.
I mean, no, I read it, but it wasn't just like, oh, I got to put it down because of the story,
Last thing, I'm to the point where I'm just skipping all the story because I'm like, okay, I don't care about the story. The story is not interesting.
Well, I mean, for me, like the story, I'm like halfway paying attention. It's okay, but it does get in the way.
Exactly.
It
All
does
it's
get in
doing
the
is
way of that
keeping
game.
me from playing and enjoying the game.
But I think it's
That
one of
kinda
those
bothers me.
games that like kind of like Monster Hunter. It's like you're going for that end game.
Yeah, but
You know what I mean?
I feel like from what I've heard about Monster Hunter, it's like it doesn't keep you from.
There's
the
no
game
story in
nearly
Monster
as
Hunter,
much.
pretty much. Yeah.
See, I feel like if Freedom Wars was that, where there does not need to be like 30 minutes of story between me and my next mission. I'm sorry, especially in
Right.
Freedom Wars.
Well, what like code are you though?
I just did my first mission with the chick that I saved.
Oh, dude, see, yeah, that point of the game, there is a lot of storyline. Once you get past that, there's a few other sections.
Mm-hmm.
But then after that, the story kind of starts taking a little bit more of a backseat there for a little bit.
Yeah,
It comes in waves.
for
But
sure.
yeah, that part of the game is like around Code 3, Code 4 is a drag because there's so much crap. They're trying to introduce all this new stuff that's going on. Like the story's starting to kind of change. But once you get past that point, it gets much better.
I mean, I doubt I'll like stop, but I've definitely it's been knocked down on the list of.
I'm
what
still
gonna play.
waiting on you.
Huh? Oh, on Freedom Wars?
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to catch up. I know. How far are you?
Code 6 or 7. Something like that.
Wow.
I'm very, very close to beating that game.
Are you sure? Because I mean,
I don't know.
Greg apparently talked like he hasn't beaten the game. He's played a ton of it. That he's to a point where like you need like 3 other human people to beat it. It gets apparently really hard.
Well, then maybe not. I don't know.
Hailfire, maybe not. That has been episode 5 of Super TurboCast. You can follow me at Virgil Cerberus on Instagram and Twitter. You can follow Kyle at Kyle_Eastman on the tweets. And you can follow JC fucking nowhere because he's a shut-in who won't get a Twitter.
Scared.
You're scared?
I'm scared.
Okay. Well, like I said earlier, we're on iTunes now. So go subscribe and rate us and do things. And
Hey,
stuff.
yeah.
Hey, yeah.
Yeah, and don't forget to throw us a tweet at the channel. It's at Super.
Our actual Twitter for the channel /podcast is at Super Turbo Games. So go follow us on there. We post, whenever the episodes come live and whenever we do videos for the channel, which and a review for the Order should be coming out, as well as a Vita unboxing and an unboxing of the new Monster Hunter 3DS XL, the new one in quotes. But anyway, thank you guys for joining me tonight. Hope you guys had a good time, and I will catch you next week.